3, 2, 1, go. Welcome to Grounds After Rounds.
Yeah, so welcome to Grounds After Rounds. Welcome back to Grounds After Rounds, not Eric.
Yeah, no.
We are joined by Shannon Corey, one of the newest. You are not the newest member anymore, unfortunately, or fortunately. I don't know.
It's good for you.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's never, I don't know, it's kind of fun to be new, but then after a while, you're kind of like, I don't want to be new anymore. I'm kind of cool just.
I feel like every day I'm new just because every movement's new. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Very true. I don't know if it makes it easier or harder to be told that that's the whole thing about CrossFit. Like there are times, what workout? We just did it last week, maybe? No, yeah, the back squat, deadlift, the heavy back squat, heavy deadlift workout last week. I felt like a newbie again. Like it was a train wreck. And I've been at this over a decade. So it is.
That's so encouraging.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, I don't know where that lands. So like some people that kind of feels like probably if it was a year from now and you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like there's still that sense of beginner's mind and newness to it. But then right now you're probably like, I just want something to feel normal. Like just something to like, well, you ran today. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, so I have no idea what Eric is doing today. I can't remember what the conflict was. But a great opportunity to have a guest on and to talk about the CrossFit Open that just finished, how it landed with Shannon, where it kind of fit for you. And then, we'll see where that conversation goes. But of course, our listening audience, we don't want to throw them off too much. And so we start with jokes. And you have one that your son told you, and I'm super excited. I think Eric will be so proud.
Bad.
That's awesome.
It's so bad.
The worse, the better.
So what do you call a cow who's just given birth?
Oh boy. I don't know.
Decaffeinated.
And it's got so many, I think Eric has told that one before, but I did not remember it. It's got so many connections. Grounds after rounds. We're supposed to be drinking coffee, but we're not.
Totally thought of
we
that.
are decaffeinated today. Well, that kind of reminds me, I mean, not at all, but I was talking to my wife the other day and I told her, Nicole, you should really embrace your mistakes. And she reached over and she gave me a hug. Awesome. There you go. So our jokes equally bad, but equally good.
You can tell I go to the 5 o'clock class because it took me a second
for that one to register.
Nicole.
Yeah. So the CrossFit Open, we just finished it. You did end up doing all 4, correct? Mm-hmm. Cool. I know what I saw on the first one, which was absolutely awesome, but I would like to hear kind of your impression of the claim on this Open was that it was going to be the most inclusive and the most accessible Open in the history of the CrossFit Games Open. So before we kind of make all right, they did it, they nailed it. I'd be curious what your take on the experience was from somebody who barely even knew how to spell CrossFit before it started.
So it's funny because I think it was my second workout.
After foundations, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember emailing you that night because something was Sugarwood and I got an invitation and I was trying to figure it out. And I'm like, oh, all these people are putting their workouts in here. And I think, because I opened it up, it was the very first time because I opened it up and it said, are you in the Open? And I shut it right away because I'm like, I want to mess this up. And so I think I emailed
to do something.
you
I don't know what to do.
and said, I don't know what this is. It's asking me if I'm in the Open. I'm guessing no. And yeah. And then I don't know how many reps were there? Like, how are we counting reps? Like I asked you all these questions and then I get really impatient. And so, cause I have like to-do lists and I was like, I need to check this off. And so I just
the logging of it. You need to check
off. And so I just said, no, I'm not in the Open. And then I just Googled like CrossFit 21.1, I think was the first one. And it gives you like the breakdown sheet. And so I was like, oh, so that's how many, oh, okay, now I understand. So I like logged it all. And then people started fist bumping me. I'm like, oh, this is like Facebook for CrossFit. I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm like, but what if I don't get fist bumped? You know, that whole thing. But
social anxiety, got it, check. Facebook, yep. Need likes, check, yep, okay.
So if members are watching, you have to give me fist bumps.
That's right.
So, but it's weird because I'd never done CrossFit. So I looked at the workout. Well, I didn't know first then that you're like, it releases. And my friend who does CrossFit, she's like, it releases. I'm like, that's great.
No
like, I don't know why you're all excited. It's a workout we're doing tomorrow morning. I don't know if I want to know what it is at a time. So that morning I came in, you demonstrated it, and I was like,
and it was hectic, right? Because the Friday or morning opens, like this isn't, it's not
well,
a normal,
it was a longer one,
right? And it's not a normal class of like, okay, we're going to take a lot of time to warm up together and skill. It was sort of a,
well, and I didn't know that. I was like, I guess this is CrossFit.
I learned my mistake by the third week of sending a preemptive email to everybody. Right? Do you remember? So sorry, anyway, to interrupt you, but that even wasn't my idea. It was Nicole's. And I was like, oh God, this workout is going to be a nightmare. It was the 2-parter. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to lose my mind.
Oh yeah. You gave us the email about don't be late.
Right. Kind of which worked in a sense that some people got a little like nervous of like, I shouldn't come, I'm going to be late. And then it was like, no. It was more of open the door, which a lot of other people took, which was to ask questions before they came. So when we all got there, we rolled right into it. So lesson learned for me, but your feedback of the whole, we take for granted when it was that first one, like everyone was going to be as excited as me because it's been 18 months since we've gotten to do this.
Well, I'm like, what's the open?
Exactly.
Like, what are y'all so excited about? I'm glad you're excited about
better
CrossFit this
marketing necessary. Check. Got it.
But it was funny because like immediately you go up into this handstand. I'm looking around, I'm like, I haven't done handstand since I was like 7 years old. And even then it wasn't good, you know? And I've had 2 surgeries on my elbow. I'm like, what is going on in here? And I was like, is it like, do you have modifications? Like, I think I read someplace you can modify this stuff. And so I was super excited when you were like, yes, you can do it. Cause at first I was like, great. My first day out of foundations, and I'm
can't do
totally
that.
Like, can't do this workout. Well, that was a waste of my time. So it was exciting. What I found exciting about it and what I find exciting about CrossFit in general, that's like addictive to me, is that I am in no way, shape, or form the same person I was when I graduated from college in terms of how strong I am, or when I was in college in terms of how strong I am. And that has kept me away from weightlifting and all. Well, doctors telling me not to do it. And just the time factor with 4 kids and Drew always being gone. And so I was like, if I get a run in, good, I'm good. And I loved how I could push myself to do the best. I was competing with myself, and I like competing with myself because one of the reasons why I didn't swim in college was kind of that
comparatively competitive.
Yes. Like I got to the point where I would get up behind the blocks. I remember being at districts and got behind the blocks, and I was like, like I was in tears. Like they're like, get up on the blocks, and I'm in tears, and I take off, and I'm like, it was
Where
just
did you grow up?
Well, my dad was military too, so we moved around a lot. And
you said districts, and that's why I'm asking. That's like an East Coast.
I went to Cumberland Valley for
so
that's why I was asking where you were, because that's where I learned to play polo.
Okay.
Like I didn't play until my junior year because we had just moved back from overseas. My mom was hilarious. I was, junior. I'm all like, why'd you have to move me to cross? And my mom's like, well, you play softball, you can throw a ball and you can swim. And they've got this thing called water polo. We literally went to the library and checked out books, and I read up on like how to play water polo. I had no clue. Like my first year, I was like swimming end to end. Like, what am I doing? Well, I know how to swim, so I'll just sprint.
Be the swimmer
from end to end.
And you said, did you play hole? You played the whole position?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was utility, so I played
kind of out on the wings
because I was a sprinter.
Okay.
So
you could do like this, come around and then drive into the middle, get the ball if they needed it.
I was a sprinter driver is what they used to call it before they came up with.
we're talking about water polo. Sorry, we kind of went right into like water polo nerd land there. But so
Yeah,
that was
sorry.
your athletic background.
Yeah.
Where swimming through high school, water polo into the late high school, and then
I played in college.
okay.
Yeah. At University of Maryland.
Nice.
So back then for women, so when I was in high school, we were JV and the guys were varsity. So when we would travel, we would play guys teams, except for like North Penn, I think had a team. Reading was just getting a team. Surprisingly enough, Wilson didn't have a team because they were like a powerhouse swimming school. But we would always play.
They broke into CB East, CB West, Wilson CB, or no, that's Central Bucks. Sorry. There was a couple like North Penn. They talked about splitting them near the end of my high school. Well, we same 95, 96.
I'm 95. We're the same, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they Central Bucks split while we were in high school down in Montgomery County, that they split from Central Bucks to CB East and CB West because they were so big.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because for girls, it was nothing. And I had to go. So I had to go through the academy through Mike Schofield.
Oh, really?
Academy, because
he's a friendly guy.
When you were talking about jumpies and punishment, I was like, yeah.
So funny story. Mike Schofield and I in CrossFit have a fun little relationship. He would play. So when I came back to the academy in 2011 to teach, they kind of had a CrossFit thing going on. One of the Olympic weightlifting coaches in with the CrossFit world through his daughter being married to Mike Bergner's son, blah, blah, blah. He liked CrossFit, does it, was like, this thing's happening anyway. Y'all are stealing equipment from McDonough Hall on bringing it down. So let's just give you one of the racquetball courts. So they floored it, equipped it, said, you break it, you buy it. Like, don't lose this stuff. You're not getting it again. I show up. I'm like, you guys want to be an affiliate? We make it an affiliate. There is, we were running classes in the mornings and then at lunchtime for the brigade. And they would come as first come, first serve. Some faculty members were playing basketball, and Schofield was one of the guys playing basketball. And you tall, white hair, right? You can't miss him. And he's loud. We kind of got in the way of them playing basketball, but like they would take up like every court. And they were playing full court. And then while they're playing full court, the other ones are warming up on another court. So we set up, because it was during the Open, we had to do these lunges across the court. So I was like, we'll set up over there. Like, we'll stay out of the way. We won't even bother them. We even asked them, would you guys mind shifting down to that court? Use this one as your warm up. We'll just take half of this court. Oh my God, like he lost it, like toe to toe, bowed up. And I knew who he was because I played water polo going through high school. He was still coaching. He's been coaching there since like 1932, right? Like he's forever there. And I was just like, Coach, like, it's all right. Just CrossFit, you got enough gyms in this fucking place. Just like losing his stuff. And I saw him like 6 months ago, a year ago. It was before quarantine, and I'm retired now, and we see each other, and he was just like, hey CrossFit guy. I'm like, hey coach, good to see you. He's like, it wasn't that I didn't like CrossFit. He just launches into like, I didn't like CrossFit. It was just, I was like, it's all right, man. Like, I think he was having like a crisis of like not wanting to be an asshole anymore or something. I don't know, but
it's funny because I asked Drew. I would come
down. He played for him.
Yeah, Drew played for him. And it's funny because we talk about our house, like where our kids are like, their coaches right now are really good, but they've had some yellers. And Drew's like, let me tell you.
About a yeller, right.
And we get the kids laughing. But I remember because so he was, for women, he was like your key to go anywhere. And so you would get in with him.
Like you would do camp with him or something.
So
and then he would
didn't do camp with him, but he would come invite us to play for different things on different teams when I was in high school.
Okay.
And then he would suggest that you go to different camps. Like I went to a camp out at the Olympic Training Center.
So like Palo Alto? Or somewhere?
No, in Colorado Springs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For trying out for the junior national team. But the recommendation had to
really good.
No, I wasn't. No. It's called the East Coast, and I was a girl at the time. coming in a new upcoming sport that just
you're
really loved to play.
probably selling
it.
yourself
I
short, but that's
cried
all right.
every day at the Olympic trains. My eyes were like red, and I was like, "And this is a great experience." But
that was just the altitude.
and like I was that one that was there that they're like, well, at least we know she'll
They were looking for the ones to cut.
but he was like super influential. I remember coming down, and even when I'd watched Drew play his senior year, Sko has a little boy. Well, he's not little anymore, but he has a little boy. He was so sweet with this little boy. And like you go from like this game, I'd be watching in the stands, and the last game just makes you laugh because it was the last time Drew played, and he's like throwing chairs in the pool. He's like swearing. He's like red faced. I think he got thrown out of that one. And it was either Carl or that comes over to the side, and they all just know what to do, because it happens so often. And then like you see him with his son, and you're like, hey dude, how you doing? Like he's so sweet. Like it's like
it's in there
Jekyll and
somewhere.
Hyde.
Yeah, and I got that sense because then he seemed like he didn't back us up, but like somebody else was trying to move in. He's like, that's the CrossFit guy's space.
Yeah.
Right. Like we had made the Shelly shout out.
Hey, Shelly.
This happens every time too. She always interrupts the podcast. I just think she just wants to get on it. But I think we passed the test, right? Like once you're inside his little, like, okay, I accept you, but man, brutal. So he helped you.
Random offshoot.
It was something. He helped you get to Maryland.
So then I played at Maryland, and we were just club, but we played like we were varsity. Like we went out to California. It was 3 years in California, 1 year in Michigan, the last year. And even though we were club the whole time, we played NC2A nationals. So because there weren't enough teams, like you could make it, but the competition was not going to be like, they just took the top 12 teams in the nation. And so
women's teams. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so then you go.
Is it an Olympic sport now?
Oh yeah.
Women's
waterball?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the US is like dominated.
Good.
Yeah.
Always makes me happy.
Yeah. I mean, every year the US is just like,
it's like soccer.
Yeah.
Women's soccer, same thing. Like I read a book, UNC's women's soccer coach is actually a guy, but he is the winningest, most coach behind the woman from Connecticut, the basketball coach from Connecticut. And I can't think of her name. But yeah, these like little hidden secrets of women NC2A sports that just dominate, and they crack the code on like welcoming places that are platforms for people to succeed.
And it was so cool because it was so small when I started for women. It really was just getting momentum. Now it's huge.
Good.
That's and cool. Like I would never be able to play in college now. And so it was huge. And to see the girls on the Olympic team, like Brenda Villa, I remember she would come out here. She played with a team out in California, and they came out here actually for a couple, and she was this tiny little thing. And she used to cherry pick at the end of the goals, like, and they just pass her the ball and she'd just try her hardest to shoot. And she is like the powerhouse. Like if you say Brenda Villa to any women water polo player, they're like, oh yeah, like she's like legend powerhouse. Like, yeah.
Nice.
Just amazing. I was like, I played with her.
I stuffed her in the cherry picking days.
That's 7-year-old.
That's hilarious. So the analogy, or you got there because swimming, standing behind the blocks,
to the open.
Right? No, I totally understand it, because as you were saying that, like describing it, I felt the same thing. Yeah. Right? That same sort of anxiety and like fear. I still feel it sometimes with workouts here.
Oh yeah, I got nervous last night when I get nervous every night. Now that I know that I can look them up, I get nervous.
So I think I don't know. I think that's a good thing, right? You only get scared about the things that are important, blah, blah, blah. We can, get all Buddhist on that, but that makes sense. The swimming aspect of it though, it did feel so comparative all the time. Like you're constantly looking at like, what is so-and-so doing? What did they do at their last meet? What is that time? Whose time? This time, that time. And like, it didn't even matter if you were just like a club swimmer. It was so intense. Did you feel that water polo wasn't?
No, not
because
at all.
It was more team oriented.
I just found it fun. Okay. Like I'll be honest, like even till today, Drew and I played together a couple of years ago. There was a tournament at Villanova and we played with, It's like a men's team. I was the only woman there at the tournament. And I was in such bad shape. Like I could barely get up and down the pool. And every time they sloughed off of me and I just could not shoot. I could not make a goal to save my life, but it's fun. Like it was just fun. Like just getting, and it's funny because I find CrossFit and polo, the two things I like about it, empowering, because I was a very small water polo player. Most girls were like 5'8", 5'9", 160 pounds, like jacked up or just bulky. And all I did was swim. That's all I did the whole time. And I was small compared to the girls, but I lifted and got really strong. And I would practice with the guys to, have tougher competition in our off season and to learn how they play, because it's two different games. And it was
what makes it different?
So I always say that girls polo is slow and dirty, and guys is fast and smart.
Okay.
And Drew laughs because he's like, we're just as dirty. I'm like, I know you are, but it's just not, it's not as fast as like the guys is.
In the women. So the suit,
or at least when I was playing,
kicking,
that's how it was.
You feel like it's more deliberate when on the women's side?
Oh, we're just mean. I mean, girls are mean all around. You get them in a pool when we're given permission to like.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't see anything that happens from here down.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And
I mean, when you're taught to swim with this, like.
Oh, that's awesome. And like sort of the leg wrap and the pull down. And
like
all
I was telling,
stuff.
my son was like, he was asking me a question the other day because my kids play soccer and I always try to relate it to polo because I'm not understanding soccer. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, so I saw they wanted you to press. I'm like, but in polo, if you press too close, they could grab you and go, or they beat you with your hips down. And I was like, is it the same in soccer? Like, can they just like do a little move with the ball? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but they can't grab you. What are you talking about grabbing, Mom?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you have your hands out here and you just grab them and you go. And he's like, you did that? Like,
but as long as the ref can't see it and it's underwater, it's legal.
And like when you were guarding hands down.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. And you just come out and your legs are just covered in scratches and marks. And yeah. I
remember my first black eye and my mom was like,
oh my God, this is the dangerous sport.
I'm like, I got black eye. So, but I felt, sorry.
Yeah.
Circling back, I feel like CrossFit is very empowering. Like I felt empowered as a female because I felt strong playing water polo. Like when I would play against the guys, like there were things that I could do where I could beat them or I could score on them. Not Drew, not Navy, like lesser,
right.
But
you could be strategic around, and your skills would dominate over size.
Yeah. Or just things that I'd learned to do. And here, like I told my kids the other day, I was like, I did a snatch today. And they're like, what's
you talking about?
And I'm like, let me show you. I was like, so I had this barbell like this, guys, over my head. And they're like, that's great, Mom. I'm like, no, that's way cool, guys.
Well, so we've got two of Eric's beasts are water polo players, Sky and Piper Andros. And there might be other ones. Oh, you do? Okay.
They were stationed in Stuttgart with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Brad he was the detailer when I made the move to here.
Oh, okay.
We knew each other for a while too. He was a staff officer at Fifth Fleet when I was running the Dolphins out of there.
Okay.
And so he nicknamed me Blowhole because I would always show up in the office and be like, oh guys, I need help. He'd be like, get out of the office, Blowhole. We're busy. We're doing real work. And then he became the detailer. And now he's Admiral Andros. So,
yeah.
Whatever. He's like important and stuff. His kids are much cooler than him. And so Sky and Piper both are beasts. You should bring, right? If your kids start doing CrossFit, instantly they will appreciate it, because I'm seeing that with mine, with the boys. Like they immediately come home and be like, got 335 on my deadlift 335 3. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome. And so now we're all able to speak the same language, because I never understood, though I do speak Josh's, he plays baseball. I understand baseball. I like baseball. I like soccer. I just never understood it. I could understand offsides. And I could understand like some of the like spacing and like play to space, but I never got it. And now Matt plays hockey. I'm so glad, because I understand hockey. Because hockey and water polo are basically the same.
Well, there's a lot of elements of soccer because I coached them up until they were 10. Because I couldn't stand, and to be honest, I still can't, the like over involved, overly, like you don't need Schofields in youth sports.
Correct.
Sorry.
Yes.
And I pay good money to have my kids coach. So I don't need Mr. Bob,
who's just yelling
Trey's
at them.
dad, coaching my kid, like, so I always, so I just like, it's funny because I'll be on the side. Usually I stay on the outsides because I can't even stand it because it just makes me so upset. Because I'm like, because you'll have these people sitting on the sideline, and especially now, like with my son and my daughter and the level that they're at playing, I watch them and I'm in awe. Like, I can't yell anything because I can't do that.
Right.
Like, they're like, run, don't give up. And I'm like, okay, you get down there, you run.
Right. Like,
you don't
that's
give
not
up.
helpful.
Yeah.
I was just talking to somebody today about it too, with like cueing in here. If a coach is just yelling across the room, good, that's awesome, you guys are great, right? As an athlete, if you hear that, you should kind of think like, what the heck? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
A, who are you talking to? B, what's good? Like, are you talking to me? Is my depth good? Is my thing like?
Did Nick Cole teach you that?
My wife, Nicole?
Yeah.
No.
Because that's so like educator specific. Like we don't just say good job. You praise like a
100%.
thing.
And so, well, the reason being is there's 6 measurable skills of a CrossFit coach. This is taught at the level 1 and the level 2. It's taught at level 1, but it is like hammered home at the level 2. Teach, see, correct. So those are the first 3. Teach the movement, be able to see faults in the movement, be able to correct the movement. So that's what the level 2, I mean, you spend so much time on that. Then there's demonstration, presence, and programming. Presence and attitude and programming. So those are sort of the other side. They spend a little bit of time on those, but those are sort of teachable. These teach, see, correct, practice, 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 practice. And then the cueing, there's 3 types of cues: verbal, tactile, visual. And so verbal, I tell you what to do. Hips back, right? But that doesn't, it's helpful. It's a body part and I'm telling you what to do with it. But how do you know when you get it back? Hips back until you feel yourself forward onto your toes, right? Like, oh, you went too far, right? Or hips back until you touch my hand. That's a verbal and a tactile. And then a visual would be like, you're doing this, I want you to do this, right? So, that's the 3-tiered approach. But where I saw it was very similar to teaching was actionable and positive. Yeah. And that it's very specific and it's very timely. And that I was like, that's just education 101. Like, yeah, good job, CrossFit. Like that's what makes it a very potent and measurable, observable, repeatable skill set that I think a lot of people don't realize that the person standing up in front, they just did a level 1 weekend course, but usually if they've been doing it for any period of time, like Shelly just went through her level 2, I redid mine. She and I went together. She came out of that like oh God, I wish I didn't know what I was doing wrong the whole time. Because now when she does, because there are days you don't hit it right, and you have like, crap. She's aware of how bad, and bad is but how badly she does, and she's a little bit self-critical. But that feeling of like, that could have been so much better. So anyway, digression of, I love coaching, and it's cool that it makes sense that like you would jump in and coach your kids, because it's like, well, I know how to do this and I don't want that. And so, I'm in it. I'm doing it. Well,
and the selfish reason was with Drew gone so much. It was like, I have control over their schedule now. Because since you aren't paying, because I always did rec. And so I was like, since you're not paying me, it's on my schedule.
We're doing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's awesome. So you kind of covered this, but I want to loop back and be more specific. So the idea of the open facilitated or made it feel as fun as something as CrossFit. I mean, you said it even after that first day to me. You said, it's the first time I felt like an athlete again.
In a while, yeah.
And it was, you weren't the only one who said that actually through the Open. We've got 2 other people who are brand new. Julie Berman is the other one. And she said something very similar after the 21.3 and 21.4. And it was, for me, it was the most heartening. I was like, it almost brought me to tears, because I was like, that's it. That's what I do it too. Like it felt so cool.
I don't know what it is. It's like every work, like I run, I told you I run. And I think I run more to be weight control, getting out there emotionally, like just working through things. But I run long distances. I've done a couple of 5Ks, but I didn't like that feeling of, because every time I finish like a 5K, I even did it here with the Annapolis 10 miler. Like when I pushed myself that hard, I would feel like I was going to throw up. And that was not fun to me.
Right.
Like I wanted to accomplish something. So I like the halves and the fulls. The halves I can race, the fulls I can't, because it gives me that satisfaction of training and completing something, even though I'm no longer
an athlete or a competitor.
Yes. Yeah. And it was a place where I could be, you didn't have to be. And that's something I really appreciate about CrossFit is I feel like after you've been an athlete, you compare yourself to that athletic self like the rest of your life. And you know you're never going to be that. And if you enter into something where that's the expectation all the time, it's really deflating.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought was going to happen here. Remember when I came in, I'm like, gotta be humble. I've got to realize I'm not where I'm at. I need to tell myself that every day, because I thought I'd come in, it'd be like that first CrossFit one where you were asking me to do a push-up or just a push-up. I couldn't do a push-up until like here. Like I think I did 3 in a row in foundations. And then the other week when we had the push-ups in our thing, I think I did maybe 15 and then had to drop to my knees, whatever that set was. I can't remember, but I was like, oh my goodness, I could do a push-up. But
they're back.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought that it would be deflating. And then when you gave me something that I could scale that felt hard and that I could do. And I think the other thing is that like Joan, holy moly, like I want to be Joan one day. Like I walk in and Joan's like 26, 67, 152. And I'm like, I can't even hang from a bar right now. You know, you have me jumping on a box to do those. And Joan's like, that was awesome, Shannon. And I was like, no. And she's like, no, really. Like, just that the other people who are so much better than you are saying, wow, great effort. Like recognizing the effort,
right,
even though you don't, and the effort and skill, even though you don't have the strength yet.
I think that's really the shared suffering element that we've all been there and we will all be back there. Like there will be a thing. Today's is a perfect example. Like you're a pretty quick runner. And so you get to exploit the strengths when you get somebody who is not a quick runner and they're like, man, I wish I could run like Shannon. Right. And so there will always be something that turns around and kicks all of us in the face in there. And that, I think the authenticity of others saying like, wow, that was awesome, because they've either felt that or they're not bullshit. Like they are recognizing like, wow, really good job. I think that's the team stimulus, or that scratches the team itch that those of us that have played team sports is like, oh, I didn't know I was missing that. Like it's that breath of like, oh my God, yes. Because as adults, and I've used this line before, you go through your entire day and nobody is caring about you. You know what I mean? Like people are caring about you, but nobody's making sure like, hey, you got your suit? You got your goggles? You got your shoes? You got your hat? You got your, like, no, you are doing that all day, every day for 4 other human beings. And nobody's like, hey, I'm watching you. And in here, you have at least one person, the coach is watching you, but then other people are too. And they're kind of guiding off of like, wait, what did he say? Like, what are you supposed to do next? And you're like, I don't really know. Me neither. God, okay, good. At least I'm not in this by myself. That I think is something there was an article about CrossFit being the third place. There was a book, I forget the guy who wrote it. He's an anthropologist. It's not a great book. The first chapter is decent, but after that, it gets a little misogynistic, a little racist, a little classist. It was published in like the early 80s. So those things are okay at that point. Not really. But he makes some sweeping generalizations about entire swaths of people. But the first chapter, the idea that you have work, you have home, And then there's this like nebulous third place. And for a long time, that was barbershops and bars, or town halls or local places, social clubs. And they kind of disappeared through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. CrossFit has sort of started to fill that hole for a lot of people. And I think that is the reason why. The Open is sort of the yearly party, I think, to kind of celebrate that, where we get to watch these people that are doing things. Yeah, they're professionals. And there is no way any of us should compare ourselves to them. What we should compare ourselves to.
You know what's really funny? On the first day, you said Carrie Pierce. Is that her name?
Yeah.
So you're like, she did this one in 12 and some change. Is that what you said?
Something,
and then I did it in like 13 and change. And I was like angry. I was like, because I thought it was like somebody like at a.
Who's this Carrie Pierce?
I had no idea. I thought you had just thrown something
and you
out.
were like, did you look it up?
Well, now I swear my phone's listening, because like on Facebook, every other ad is like Carrie Pierce for great abs, Carrie Pierce for this. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Carrie Pierce. Like, I feel really good about my time now.
I think she got second, maybe third at the games last year. I think she got second. Yeah, insane. Has like.
But also the really cool thing was she was doing the same workout that I did.
Yes.
So that was really cool. It wasn't like what I was doing, because sometimes, to be honest with you, I've gone to gyms, I've done the classes, and the mods are like it's beneath me. I don't do mods, but here I don't feel like the mods are that way. Like if Carrie Pierce is doing this and like
that's what she feels like, then the mod or the scale. And there's two different. I've talked about this.
Sorry, I'm using wrong terminology.
Not at all. But it's words matter in the sense that language matters, because there's a methodology. You scale inside, and you think modality, volume, difficulty. So modality, monostructural weightlifting, gymnastics. Within that modality, you try to scale within the same modality. So if it's a gymnastics movement, it's a pull-up, you should keep it gymnastics, and you should keep it pulling, and it should be upper body, right? So if I'm gonna scale it, ultimately or optimally, I want to scale it so you're still doing this motion. It's just maybe we reduce the load by adding a band, putting a box, making it a ring row. I'm now kind of changing it because I've gone from bar to unstable platform, but at least I'm still pulling with my arms. And at some point I can reduce volume. Maybe if you have pull-ups, but we just take the reps down a little bit. If you need to scale out of the modality, you try to scale to something that retains the intended stimulus, which is an upper body pull. So bent over rows, rowing in a plank, still makes the person have to do this.
Yeah.
But I can let them, maybe they're injured, something, right? Like my elbow really hurts, so I can't do that. I have to do something else. That's the problem when you get somebody. This is the greatest example, is if you don't have double unders, for the longest time, the scale it was really a modification for the double under was double the number of single unders. So I have somebody who's having trouble jumping. Maybe it's a timing thing, maybe it's whatever. I am now going to make you do 2 times as many jumps, still with the rope, and it's probably going to take you 2 to 3 times as long. So now all of a sudden you get this modification that does exactly what you're talking about, which is like, ugh, this just effing sucks. Like, I don't want to do it. So that's where, when you scale something, that's the idea. If it mods, it means either the person's injured, they can't physically do it, right? It's like either because of limitation or just the skill isn't there yet. But yet the stimulus should still be in the same time domain, and optimally still be a push if it's a push, a pull if it's a pull, a hinge and a squat if it's a hinge and a squat. And that's when we look at it, like there's that amount of, that's why I was so impressed by the Open. Clearly the whole team involved in programming that thing thought through every single one of those, because when we all did 21.1, did it RX, got a certain time of performance, did the foundations one, and I was smoked. And I still couldn't beat, or maybe I did beat Carrie. I think she still had one of the fastest times. I don't think she ended up winning it, but I still didn't barely beat the elite who were doing it as prescribed. And I'm same thing. I was like, son of a go. But then you realize like, oh, right. I'm not an elite athlete. I'm just doing this for fun.
I could tell. It's funny because I can tell that was the Open now.
Yeah.
After, because that was my first, because I've been doing it for 4 weeks now with that week with the foundations and then 3 extra weeks. So week of foundations. Yeah, a month now because I've really only had a week of real CrossFit, I guess. If that's
right. You started March 1st.
Not open.
March 1st was your first foundation. So you're in your second month.
And I was like, I could not run. Like I could not run because my body was so tired. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do. Like when I asked you about
we sat down and talk about combining the two.
I don't know how I'm gonna do that because I can't. Like I don't see how I can double up my runs. And then just recently, I've been able to add on that run some days when I have time. But I didn't realize that the Open was like CrossFit on steroids. Like I thought that's what we did every day. I'm like, okay, I like this workout, but now how do I balance it? Because I still want to run for the emotional benefits. And then I ran the half marathon after that first one.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
And I didn't know. I wasn't sore. It didn't feel pulley. It didn't. And then the next day, my hamstrings, remember? Because I had to skip on Monday because I'm like, my hamstrings are so tight because then I went and ran the half with the tight hamstrings. But like figuring out what I'm working. But now like I get sore, but it's not like the sore that I got from those Open workouts.
And I would say the fatigue, the metabolic fatigue is starting to, you're adapting, right? Like, and it takes about 3 to 4 sometimes 6 weeks, depending on how much out of the game somebody has been. So that's cool. That's really a cool observation or kind of that self-awareness of you can feel the difference already. I think it'll be cool too, if history is any guide. There will be times where you'll have more of these across a week, 2 week, 3 week period. Be very consistent in here. Runs will fall off, timing, like you said, you just can't get out there. And then you'll strap your shoes on and you'll go back out for a run and you'll be like, holy crap, I feel just as good, maybe even better.
Well, I was talking to Shelly because I got into Freedom's Run half. It's first face-to-face and they're doing a real small.
When is it?
It's May 15th, I want to say.
Cool.
But I wanted to run it before we left for Ghana. And it was pouring and I hadn't recovered from my marathon. And so I got in this time and it's super hilly. And I was like, great, now I've got to start training. But then Shelly was like, Jack just did an experiment running the Marine Corps.
I did.
No long runs, no anything. And it reminded me of
3 on 1 off CrossFit.com.
When we talked about my first marathon, like pretty much untrained because I was coming off season.
That's right.
And it was interesting because I was listening to a podcast by Marathon Training Academy, and Angie is getting older. And so that was one of the reasons why I started CrossFit, was because I did all this research and bone density and the hormones for women and osteoporosis, arthritis, which I already have both in my right arm. And that's why I wasn't lifting because they told me not to. And I was like, well, this is silly because either I get an elbow replacement, keep doing it, or I get an elbow replacement and not do it and have like the rest of my body is a wreck. So I started the CrossFit to at least keep it the same or try to increase muscle mass as I grow older, because for women, it's super important.
Yeah.
And I was listening to her podcast and she used to just run 6 days a week and now she lifts heavy. And they say it's interesting too, because when I was in college, I lifted heavy. After I left college, I would do like 15, 16, 17, just because I was like, I don't have to lift heavy anymore. And it really wasn't doing anything. And they say only lifting heavy is what helps as women grow older.
Your bones are sponges. Like you got to flex that inner part of the bone. Like they're living tissue.
Yeah. Because it's not only about the muscles, it's about that bone too.
They release T1, T2 cells. Like there's with your immune system. Yeah. Like I had to take, I got a master's in coaching, health and wellness coaching at a place up here just outside Columbia. And I thought it was just going to be a cool program, whatever. I had to take like collegiate level physiology. It kicked my ass. Like, I mean, it was full on every system in the body. And the professor was great. She's like, this is the college level, master's level physiology class. Like this is the stuff that doctors are taking.
Well, I'm like, and
minus,
you're an academy grad,
right?
Like, that's no joke.
Right. Like I'm like, and I
Like-
got a master's in English before, like when I first graduated, like I know how to study, and I'm taking this, and I thought it was just going to kind of be like, whatever. It's an online, this will be a piece of cake. No big deal. Holy crap. Like at least 3 to 4 hours a day studying, making flashcards, like everything. So yeah, you learn about the bone systems and like how much it's integrated with the rest. Like they're really freaking important. It's actually with the COVID vaccines, they're using CRISPR technology and the RNA, which is part of that same sort of whole, your bones, your immune system, your, the other things. Now I don't remember the rest. But that, I was like, it's all connected. So yes, all to say, lift heavy stuff. Like you're supposed to deadlift often.
Yeah. So Angie was talking about, she started and her times went down. Like she's growing older and her times are getting better. Because she went through the same thing, I think, that all women do around like 40 to 50, like within that 10-year span. It just depends, where you gain weight and nothing works to get it off. And you have to figure it out with the hormones and now what you're eating and lifting and realizing that's important. She's like, I only lift 3 to 4 times a week now. I mean, only run 3 to 4 times a week. And she's like, a sub-4 marathoner, like, ooh, yeah. Moving. And she's like, and I lift the rest of the time super heavy. So it was super interesting. Like just a lot of affirmation for what I'm doing, that it's okay. Like I can run 3 days a week. I can run 2 days a week and I'll still be able to do this half marathon May 15th because of the muscles I'm building.
Yeah. I think it'll be cool for you to feel that experientially, to validate it, right? You're hearing it, but then to feel it too. And I think the experience of the Open, though, yes, CrossFit on crack, that was a great description. The good part of that is it accelerates the appreciation for just how much everybody is in it for and with each other. Like it isn't it's a competition in the sense that like you start to figure out where, I guarantee you, Joan, who else? Roger, if Mickey had been here this morning, they're watching you and they're seeing how fast you're moving in that first section, the first 3 rounds. And they're thinking to themselves, damn it, right? And they're moving quicker to try to catch you. And that's also what good scaling facilitates, is you should be beating them. And then they should be beating you. And then you should be beating them. And so that's the competitive aspect, but never at like oh God, I have to beat this person or I'm going to shave reps or whatever. That's when it becomes detrimental and we've missed the bubble, right? Or like whoa, like what are we doing here? No. The competition is it's to facilitate you being the better version of you as the athlete. Nobody really cares if you actually win because it means absolutely nothing. But it's that feeling that you described of empowering. I love that word.
I like the time stimulus because
if I say like, hey, you should be in this 15 to 18 minute
and I
range.
feel like you knew that right off the bat because that first day you looked at me and you said, now Carrie Pierce does it at 12 and change. And I was looking at that clock, like, I know that in that I don't know what set it was, but when I was doing the jumping jacks,
I watched you accelerate.
Like, I was like, I've got like
I think that's my go-to. I'm that type of person. And so you know what I mean? Like you coach the way you are kind of.
So lie to me. Like when I told you, thanks, I'm paying you to cheer for me.
Right. Which is true too. What I didn't know was how much it was going to make you accelerate. And then sort of we've got another one of these on our hands. All right, cool. Because that's right. Some people I tell that to, they could care less. Right? They're just like, okay, cool, whatever. Thanks. That's, good data point. I don't really mind. Some people it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And then there's others of us that are like, how fast did you say I have to go? All right, I'm going 10 seconds faster than that.
Well, and what workout was it when you were like, I think we're going to shave some reps off of that?
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize I did it. And you were like, I guess we're not. And I didn't realize I giving you a look like, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
No, we are not.
That's not what I do.
we've already scaled this enough.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll butt heads at times, right? Like, I still don't think you needed to run that extra 10 tenths of a mile, but I get it, right? At the end of the day, like, my job is to meet you where you are. It's also my responsibility to then, if I have a point, give you the opportunity to see the why, right? Like, I've seen it 100,000 iterations. So I'm coming from that perspective. You've seen one. And so it's sort of that, like, okay, right? I respect sort of the, no, this is what I need to do. It's like, okay, got it. It's that collaborative back and forth.
I had a coach once that, because you know how everybody drifts in the red or the blue, in the flags. They drift in when they were finishing sets and stuff at school. They just kind of dive
yes.
And I had a coach that said that is where races are won and lost.
Without a doubt.
In the flags.
Oh, yeah.
And
you could watch Lockie lose races that way.
I mean, look at the Olympics. Almost every single race is like that finishing, like,
that's his MO. He's a loser. Like, he's not a loser. He's such a much better swimmer than I am, blah, blah, blah. But that's what happened. Like 3 times at World Championships, he's there and you watch the other swimmer reach it in.
Yeah. And I don't know, that's just always stuck with me. Like, even in polo, like, we'd have to do swim workouts on our own, and I would complete every single one, because I was like, that's it. It's at the finish. Like, if you don't put in that little bit, it's at the finish. And like with marathons, like that 0.2, like if I skip that 0.1, like that's going to translate to that 0.2 when I'm really hurting. Like, and then I'll blame myself. I'll be like, you're really hurt because you skipped that point. Because that's just my personality. And like that one day when you're like, no, you don't have to do it. I'm like, yes, I do, because I can't mark it. Like Sugar WOD, like
Sugar WOD would say no, you didn't do
Sugar
it.
WOD?
Sugar WOD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I call it wood, and Drew's always like, is it a WOD? I'm like, oh, wood WOD, whatever.
WOD, it's dumb. Workout.
It's, it's blue.
So something that helped me one time kind of figure that out is the observable, measurable, repeatable thing. Right. So if we run a mile again, like, are you always going to run that extra 1/10 of a mile? If it's a mile, like when we do Murph, which is the mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, mile run. We do it on the Saturday of Memorial Day.
No,
right. Because it's sort of it doesn't really matter in the sense of like, is that watch calibrated to this and blah, 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 blah. When Dave Castro, the programmer, the director of athletics or whatever they've now named him, which is great. Like, they're changing all of their directorate names to better model international business. He does not call the open workouts, the regional workouts that were used to be programmed by CrossFit are now the quarterfinals and the games. They're not workouts, they're events, because they have a very specific goal of measuring everybody with a standard set around the world. And so if you think of the workout today as more like an event, the idea is if everybody's running the same distance, you can then say, hey, look, yes, I lost to you in the first 3 rounds, but I chased you down in the mile, and I beat you, because you can say you ran the same distance as. And so what we should have done was say, hey, the mile starts at the end of the canopy and it finishes at the end of the canopy. Wherever you start in the gym, doesn't really matter. I don't really care. You can take all the time you want, but the mile starts at the canopy, ends at the canopy. That's why sometimes I have people run through the rig, out the door and stuff, because of that idea of the consistency. That's what makes it.
Which totally makes sense. Cause like I've never been to a race where my watch is like 13.1,
right?
26.2.
But you wouldn't.
But I don't stop like 0.05 from the finish line. Like, sorry,
hey,
this is where it says it's the end.
Yeah.
You walk my medal on down here for me.
And so that's the whole point. But then it's also like, hey, I'm here for my mental health too. And I wanted to do that last little bit, which is what there are some people too that do that. And that's what I mean as far as that.
Well, with that,
it's my job to meet you there.
For the set, I understand now the mile, but for the set, I was like, no, like.
Oh, when we, yeah. That was
like,
a different, I saw it on your face there, and I totally agreed. I'm like, got it. Like, it doesn't matter.
But that makes total and complete sense with the,
So would you, I hate using like words like good, bad, in writing when I would teach a professional communications course, I would say you are not allowed to call yourself a good or bad writer anymore.
Those are banned words.
Right. They're contextualized. They have zero actual meaning, like they're relative and superlative, effective, ineffective. And the only way we can say effective and ineffective is if I establish what do I measure as my effective measure of accomplishment, ineffective, then I don't reach that. And so we established in professional communication, audience and purpose. You have to identify what your audience was. You had to identify what your purpose was. And we would then, at the final project, when they would do the presentation, the class would vote, was it effective, ineffective? And then they could agree or disagree and like argue why, which is like my little bonus way of making them do rhetoric. But because they would tell us, this is my audience and this is what I'm trying to convey to my audience. And then we would say, you either did it or not. So my question is, was the Open effective or ineffective in meeting its goal of being the most, you have no reference because you didn't do one before, but was it accessible and was it inclusive to somebody who had just started CrossFit?
Oh yeah, it was totally that way. Cause like I told you, like on that first day, I'm like, there's no way I can do that. And so immediately with the second one, I looked up what the foundations was. So I knew what I needed to do going in, but that first day I had no idea. I just thought, to be honest with you, like when I came into CrossFit, I just thought the workout of the day was workout of the day. Like everybody did the same thing
around the world.
Yeah. Like it didn't.
Which
like,
the Open actually
scaling.
is. That's the only time that it does happen, that everybody's doing the same in the CrossFit world is doing the same workout. But
because they're all like beasts.
Well, no. I mean, like anybody who's doing CrossFit and doing the Open at their affiliate, you can be guaranteed between Thursday night and it's Monday afternoon, Monday night, around the world, all 15,000 plus affiliates that are doing the Open are probably doing that workout at some point.
I didn't mean like around the world. I meant like if you're doing the standing push-ups, I have to
everybody in the gym and here.
Like there's no scaling.
Gotcha.
Like I didn't realize the depth of the scaling, I guess. And so that was super, I think it made me like it instead of walk away from it. Because it was effective because I came back.
Yes.
I
agree. Voluntary compliance. It's the first step.
I mean, and it wasn't shortly after that I was like, this is addictive. Like I was doing one at my house because I could actually do it at my house. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And my neighbors were like, what is wrong with you?
Oh, you've just started down the path. So, my neighbor, she's still just like, she's over it now. But when we first started, especially in the morning at 5:15 or 5:30 when we were going and they were up, they would see people out on our driveway with barbells snatching and thrusting, and she's just like, what are you guys doing? So nice. Welcome to the party. Well, that's awesome. I guess, yeah, you answered my question. I like it. That's it. What, so gratitudes. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right.
Yeah.
Mine is, I did not, so it's Monique, 6 a.m. regular. She got her first pull-up on Monday.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was awesome. And I in the moment, it was like, I knew she was going to do it. Like I could tell through the build-up because we did it was 5, 3, 1, 5-minute EMOM, 5-minute EMOM, 5-minute EMOM. By the threes, I was like, oh, she's got this. And when we were doing the singles, I was like, she's got it. So I felt comfortable kind of like pushing a little bit. I said, you should try just to do a pull-up. So when she got it, I wasn't surprised. And I think both of our reactions were very muted. It was sort of this like, yeah, all right, yeah. But her goal was a pull-up by 45. She's got 2 years before she has to get that goal. Like she got it. Like, and so then of course her husband Bob goes, so you're doing 45 at 45? And she's like, I can't do that. Meanwhile, in my head, I'm thinking like, I don't know. I think you kind of can. The actual gratitude was her willingness after that workout to do it, to say, because sometimes I get as a coach a little nervous, like putting my desires to see people push themselves, putting that on them. And I have to temper that sometimes. And I didn't. I just jumped right in and was like, you should totally try one. And she did it and it worked and it was successful and we were happy. And that was it. And it was sort of like all right. And it was enough. And I didn't feel this we need to celebrate that. We do still need to put that on Instagram somewhere. You know what I mean? Like she deserves that. but also at the same token, it was sort of that just hell yeah. And I mean, we did our athlete check-in a couple months ago, and that was one of the goals. I have it written down in my notes, and I don't have it as like a checklist, but I will go over and actually like line that one out because we got that goal. And so yeah, Monique, that made my week, and it was absolutely awesome. So Monique is my gratitude, and her pull up was phenomenal. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
Shelly. It's funny because Shelly's actually my gratitude.
She's awesome.
We had a great, there's just so much. She's a seasoned Navy wife. And so she's gone through, I feel like right now in Navy life, like people either have gotten out or they're super young. There's not a lot of people around the same, they're still going through it,
Okay.
you know, the active deployments and all. But, and also we had kids really early, kind of like you guys, because your kids are almost the same age as ours.
Yeah.
So there aren't a lot of people that have kids like the same age. And just being able to talk, we sat down after CrossFit. I forget what day it was. It was one of the days I went to the 9:30, and I was just talking with her about the nutrition and everything, and just right now, just life right now and working. And it was just a great conversation, like somebody that actually
Got it.
Because as a Navy wife, you don't want the pity party, you know, like you just, like if your husband's deployed, you're like, yeah, they're not here, they're deployed. And the immediate reaction is like, I'm so sorry, you know, thank you for your service. And it's like, I appreciate the thank you for your service, you know, but I'm like, we don't want pity. We just want you to understand that's why I'm a hot mess today. It's because he's not here to help, you know, or that's why my kid went to school with no underwear because my husband's not here, you know, like it's not the pity, if that makes sense. And like to sit down with somebody and for them to be like, yeah, I know it really stinks right now. And I've been through it. And you know, just to have somebody.
She's really good too.
So yeah, and she's just, yeah. And just to say, yep, I was there, you know, a couple of years ago, that's what I did. Like this morning, as we're walking on, I'm like, hey, I have a banana protein shake in the car because I've been getting super hungry after these, which running suppresses my appetite. So I was surprised. I'm like, I've got a banana and a protein shake in the car. And you know, she's like, that's good, you know, but just somebody to just be like, hey, you know,
validate it. And also, Shelly, I agree. She's kind of a fail-safe gratitude often for us, for Eric and I. But yeah, and I think I can't speak to your experience because I was on the other end. Do you know what I mean? Like I was always leaving. I was always the one on deployment. And so I felt it the first time we had a class graduate. It was the class of 14. I got really close with them. I showed up here at 11, started a bunch of stuff with them. And then the class of 14 graduated, went to a couple of their graduation parties, and then they all left. And I remember looking at Nicole and going like, oh my God, this is what I did to you for 12 years. This is horrible. Like, this is the worst. I'm going to go in my room and cry.
You weren't even married to them.
No, but like, because they're going and they're so excited. And then, you know what I mean? Like, and there's legitimately, I remember like saying goodbye to the boys, getting on the plane and being like, all right, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah.
And not even thinking about the train wreck being left behind. You know what I mean? Like,
Drew said that, like, he doesn't like the long goodbyes. And I think one of the reasons why he does, and I understand it, like deployment's exciting. Like you're
getting to do what you've been training.
When you're on home cycle, you're like training the entire time. You're training, it's hard, or you're doing paperwork to get ready to, you know, And when you go on deployment, you're doing what you were trained to do. You're doing, like, I know this will sound hokey, but Drew in 8th grade said, I want to fly and I want to fly for the Navy. And his whole,
you're living your adolescent dream.
Yeah. And he truly believes, like, I mean, we're in a diplomatic role. Well, we still are. No matter who's in administration, like we still, both of us still believe in the ideals of this country. And we've been places. I mean, we just came from Ghana, you know, where we truly see
the U.S. does a lot more good than bad.
Yeah. And for him to go out there and fight for, what we believe in. Like he comes home and he says when he's on deployment, sometimes he'll come home and he'll sit down, he'll think about Grace. And he's like, how fortunate she is that she was born in the States.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
luck of the draw, right? That freaking
he calls
lifetime
it
luck.
the genetic lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, so that's
We digress yet again.
but that's a really good gratitude because that comes you're not looking for the pity party, right? But that is a very difficult it's a very difficult thing to give context to. And so I would validate that you found that she's
Shelly's awesome.
She's a good one too. Yeah, she gets it. She gets it. Well, that was awesome. Thank you very much for sitting down and offering that perspective of the Open and this experience. And I'm glad that it's working. That's awesome. And so thanks for finding us. This is, we're lucky for you being here without a doubt. Like we're better off, and that's pretty damn cool.
I love it. My kids are like, Mom, 5 a.m. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
It's
Don't mess with that.
Yeah.
It's going to become
like, kids, have you seen this yet?
All righty, folks. We will see you on the creek.